Yep. The hypocrisy just shows its ugly head with these transformers. Always, man. They could victimize you. They could do all this stuff. And then they turn around and play victim when you call them out on it. Activist behind Netflix walkout over transphobic comedy special has made bigoted tweets against Asians and homosexuals in the past. Ashlee Marie Preston, the activist behind Team Transformers Netflix walkout over the Dave Chappelle comedy special, has made a series of problematic tweets in the past. Screenshots of tweets she has made in the past have gone viral that reveal a deep-seated hatred towards Asians and homosexuals. Matt O'Falley, who is the documentary filmmaker and journalist according to his Twitter profile, shared screenshots of her tweets where she can be seen expressing a desire to commit violence against homosexuals. Bro, I beat the dog-ish out of you. Furry slipper wearing ass F boy. IRL. I'd smash your effing head in like a can of AW root beer, but I'm gonna fall back and let you keep pretending for the internet. D Rider. A series of tweets also show bigotry towards Asian Americans. In one tweet, she claimed that she had broken her phone on the head of an Asian woman. The tweets are littered with abuses of the worst kind. Asian hoes act like they won't get karate chopped. They mother effing throat. What is this hoe staring at? Mind your beeswax. Latino and Asian businesses need to stop being rude and effing disrespectful. And I know it's a lot to ask in California, but speak effing English too. Another damn Asian almost hit me while crossing. What the F is with y'all and damn vehicles? I have an idea. McDonald's on Wilshire eating my salad and protein wrap. This Asian N-word kept looking at me. He continues. This Asian N-word in the subway got a fat butt. He almost looks like a bitch from behind. Just broke my phone on this Asian bee's head. I have Asian friends, but they some mother effing weirdos sometimes. Almost got hit by an Asian in BMW across the street. Yes, I know what you mean. But the important thing is that we didn't say it. Racist ass. What? I don't do Mexican, Asian, or Samoan. Just cuss that Asian be out. Clean the fuck out. You mess up my order and then blame me. Never order again. Yep. Ashlee Marie Preston has served as a campaign surrogate for Elizabeth Warren during the latter presidential campaign in 2020. It was then that her past tweets had first surfaced, for which she issued an apology. Preston blamed her substance abuse for the tweets. Wow. Always making excuses, man. It's always an excuse. Always an excuse. She had said in October 2019, at the height of my meth addiction 8-9 years ago, I made a series of racially insensitive homophobic tweets, but I wasn't out yet and was dealing with the internalized transformophobia while homeless in a neighborhood where I felt culturally inferior. I stayed up for days on end tweeting for an impaired consciousness while shadowboxing via tweet with anyone who made me feel less than. All those tweets were resurfaced as a political play. I'll take full responsibility for my actions and deeply apologize to those I've offended or hurt. I also apologize to those indirectly impacted by these developments. At over 7.5 years clean and sober, I've learned to make amends when I'm wrong and to take complete accountability for my actions. I didn't have an education. Oh, excuses. I didn't have the education, information, mentorship, or cultural competence I have now. I am also not strung out on drugs and have a clear heart and mind today. she had added. The tweet appeared to have been deleted since then. Man, please. I don't want to hear it. Netflix employees on Wednesday staged a walkout accusing comedian Dave Chappelle of making transformer-phobic comments in his comedy special for the streaming platform. The walkout has received support from celebrities across the board, although ordinary people on social media appear to be firmly behind the comedian. CEO Ted Sarandos, too, stood by the comedy special and said that it is consistent with the kind of content Netflix seeks to offer its audience. After his initial memos, where he asserted that content on screen doesn't directly translate into real-world harm, Sarandos claimed to have screwed up his response in an interview later, but even so, he stood by his decision to let comedy special remain as it is on the platform. Man, he should not have backtracked for nothing, okay? He should not have backtracked for nothing. You are right. This is comedy. And you see what these people do. You see what these people do, what these transformers do. Free speech. They could shout and protest they hurt. When someone comes to a protest and say, you know what? I feel that Dave Chappelle is funny. Hold the sign. They break the sign in half. They're supposed to be the victims. They break the sign in half and then try to say, oh, he got a weapon. He got a weapon. Trying to get that man arrested. Okay, that right there is wrong. And it goes to show how they play dirty games. All right? It just shows how you can't trust these people at all. And it's time to like pull off the mask with these people. Okay? Because these people only care about themselves. They watched the comedy special that made jokes about, Jews, made jokes about blacks, made jokes about some really bad stuff. But when it came to them, all of a sudden they're hurt. They want to be the untouchables. Okay? That's what they want to do. They want to crash meetings, business meetings. All right? They want to be untouchable. That's what it is. And people are tired of it. All right? And you got you have Flame Monroe, who's a transformer. She backs Dave. This is comedy. Nothing is spared. Nothing is safe. Nobody and nothing is safe. That's how it is. You know what's the real problem? The real problem is they don't like being called out. They don't want nobody knowing their dirty laundry. That is the issue with what they have with Dave Chappelle. Because what he's saying is the truth. It's comedy mixed with truth. It's like George Carlin. Comedy mixed with truth. And they're mad about it. That's the issue. That is the real issue. They want to be a protected class. You cannot say anything about them. You can't talk about how they want the right to walk around and demand that straight men date them. Demand that you see them as that. And if you don't, you're transformer phobic. They want you to bow down to them. And people are tired of that. You want to go around deceiving men. And then when they find out who you really are, And then when something bad happens to you, you want to play victim. You're not a victim. You knew going out with this type of dude without telling who you are, that you're a transformer, was wrong. Okay? That's the issue here. Nobody could talk about you. Nobody could talk about them. But there are, like I said, Flame Monroe got up and talked about, like, listen, no, leave Dave Chappelle alone. Leave him alone. All he's done is make people laugh. He bucked against the liberal communist regime, trying to stifle everything, and he's won. People are tired of it. They're tired of it, and they're not taking it anymore at all. Now I'm going to check something. I'm going to show something here right now. Hold on a minute. One minute.
Last week on this show, I praised Netflix for declining to bow to public pressure from transgender activists who wanted the network to punish comedian Dave Chappelle for making jokes about trans people in his latest Netflix comedy special, The Closer. Trans employees of Netflix and some activists claimed that even making jokes about trans people would contribute to self-harm and violence. Netflix co-CEO
Fair use.
Ted Sarandos rebuked these claims, saying that the company possessed, quote, a strong belief that content on screen doesn't directly translate to real-world harm. Sarandos gave a powerful example, violent video games. Quote, the strongest evidence to support this is that violence on screen has grown hugely over the last 30 years, especially with first-party shooter games. And yet violent crime has fallen significantly in many countries. Adults can watch violence, assault, and abuse, or enjoy shocking stand-up comedy without it causing them to harm others. He's totally right. Politicians, religious groups, and even some psychologists initially claimed that violent video games encouraged kids to commit real-world violence. That was the basis of legislative action to ban violent video games in the 1990s and early aughts. Those bans eventually came undone, both because they violated the First Amendment and also because the real-world harms never materialized. In fact, I've seen some research suggesting that violent video games actually deter real-world violence because the tiny number of young people who are already inclined toward violence can use them as an outlet for their rage. Think about that. So Netflix was on totally solid ground telling the cancel culture crowd that they would not censor offensive comedy. Obviously, it's in Netflix's best interest to platform Dave Chappelle's comedy, and a bit of controversy only helps attract eyeballs. The company even disciplined a trans employee who barged into a meeting to demand action. What an admirable example of an employer refusing to cave to a woke mob, right? Well, fast forward to Tuesday, when Sarandos walked back his strong defense of Chappelle, telling Variety that the company, quote, screwed up and failed to, quote, lean into humanity up front. Such apologies were not sufficient to satisfy the woke mob, which is not surprising because, newsflash, they never, ever are. And so a small protest and employee walkout took place outside Netflix's Sunset Boulevard headquarters in Los Angeles. The event was live streamed by Reuters. Here's some.
Let me just get this through to you guys. They're protesting over jokes. There's so much things that are going on in the world, and you're protesting over jokes. That, you know, like I said, he made fun of so many other ethnic groups, so many other cultures. You don't see them protesting. Well, all of a sudden, you're protesting because of the simple fact he's putting you out in Front Street. Everybody's getting tired of it.
Some of it. But the anti-Chappelle crowd wasn't the only faction that showed up. A few supporters of comedy staged a counter-protest, chanting things like, "We like Dave," and other pro-comedy statements. Here's how the anti-Chappelle protesters dealt with that.
Why is he breaking my sign? Why is he breaking my sign? Don't have free speech rights? Don't have free speech rights at all to you? He's got a weapon! He's got a weapon!
Maybe if you're on the side that's tearing up people's signs and shrieking at a guy who's basically saying it's good to laugh, you're possibly on the wrong side, but I digress. The pro-Chappelle guy, by the way, inadvertently raised an interesting point during an interview. He said he wanted, and I think he was joking, 100 more Chappelle specials, as well as, and he was definitely joking about this, Cuties 2, a theoretical sequel to Cuties. Cuties, you may recall, was a Netflix film about young girls who had started dressing, acting, and dancing in sexually provocative ways.
That's the thing. You don't see the Transformers screaming and outraging over that. You don't see them doing that, but you went and outraged over Chappelle. Because he outed your nonsense. One movie that talks about underage girls looking provocative, which anybody should be outraged about and demand cancellation. But the alphabet mob wasn't going after them. But you go after Dave Chappelle. Kind of got me thinking about your priorities and who you guys really are and what you guys actually accept. Disgusting.
A film that made your average conservative commentator descend into a paranoid rage. Cuties generated apoplectic denunciation from conservative media figures and politicians when it was released in September 2020. People said that the film, the lesson of which was actually that such a lifestyle was bad and unhealthy for the young girls, would promote pedophilia and sex trafficking. Republican Senator Josh Hawley called on the Justice Department to investigate Netflix over the film. This was all insanity, and Netflix correctly defended itself. The company should put forth an equally strong defense of Chappelle's offensive comedy, which has perturbed the woke left just as much as Cuties perturbed the right wing. And anyone who thought their political foes were being ridiculous for denouncing Netflix over Cuties and or Chappelle should maybe take a look in the mirror and notice whether they are the ones holding the pitchfork this time. One last thing, it's important to note that there doesn't really appear to be any actual customer-driven outrage over the Chappelle special. The people who are mad, predominantly, are a very small number of very woke employees, and importantly, their allies in the media. This detail is important because wall-to-wall negative media coverage can make a thing seem controversial when actually it isn't. A New York Times article, for instance, claimed that the Chappelle episode was proof of Netflix, quote, losing its glow. But there's no evidence whatsoever that Netflix is losing its glow financially, creatively, in terms of its popularity, in terms of its variety, etc. The company just did something that a tiny number of militantly socially progressive people find obnoxious, and because these people's views are extremely overrepresented in elite media circles, their complaints have been amplified to the degree that the CEO of Netflix thought he had to walk back his comments. He didn't, and he shouldn't. The media is not a neutral arbiter in this conflict. It is on the side of cancel culture. It is on the side of this mob. And, you know, if you watch the Chappelle specials, he also mocks poor white people. He calls poor white people drug addicts. He makes fun of their suffering. There's no mob of white people who are mad. I mean, there are white people who are mad there, but they're not mad about that. They're mad about the trans stuff. So it's just kind of funny what tends to inflame anyone. And there's no real, just a small number of people are mad, but it's wall-to-wall coverage. And we're talking about it to take the other side of it.
And it's the specials shot through with misogyny too.
Right. Yeah.
That seemed to be fine too.
Yeah, but none of them are talking about that. They pick out the stuff that exposes them. That's it. They don't want to be exposed. These people, they don't want free speech. They want to crush people.
But one wonders almost if it was deliberate from Chappelle. I mean, he's offensive all the time, so it doesn't have to be deliberate. But perhaps he went overboard in attacking the kind of the poor white trash in Ohio. in order to set up this juxtaposition, like, because he knew, like, and you can, he said, because he's gone through this cycle so many times. Right? He knows that he's going to get this reaction for the trans jokes that he makes. He knows that. So
that's all I'm going to put up there for now. Okay. So like, share, comment, and subscribe later.